everybody, today I'm going to be talking about the Giver movie. Now, I love The Giver. I just reread it this summer in order to kind of refresh my memory for when the movie was coming out. But I have to say, I went in with pretty low expectations, just genuinely curious about what they were gonna do. Because after I finished the book, I did watch the trailer again and immediately noticed some differences. But I was actually kind of okay with it because this is a really short book and there's a lot of ambiguity in it and things that aren't explained. So I figured what they were gonna do was take like the heart of the story and then expand on it. So I went in with sort of that expectation. I didn't think it was going to be that faithful. And so when I actually went in and actually saw it, I was kind of blown away by how close it actually was. Like, yes, there were some key differences, but overall they really did stick to all of the most important parts about the story. It's not very often that you go into a movie adaptation of a book and think that there are some things the movie did genuinely better than the book. So I appreciate both of them on their own. I thought they were both fantastic. Like, I love the book, but I actually really love the movie. As just a movie in general, I mean, if you've never had any idea what The Giver was, you might be kind of bored in the beginning because the whole point of the society is that they've leached all emotion out of these characters. They are kind of robotic, and so because they're kind of flat, it's hard to watch in the beginning. It might bore you because you think these characters are so uninteresting, why should I care? That's kind of the point. So I did think that that was a difficulty. You couldn't avoid that. It was too important to the story. But it ended up being kind of funny how robotic they were and how awkward they were. And so I kind of ended up really liking that, but it might bother some people who just didn't know the story. But I just absolutely loved the color scheme because the way it starts out is black and white, and that's on purpose because everyone in the community does not see color, and that's like not really a big spoiler, you figure that out right away. But the way that they adjusted to adding color back in for when Jonas starts seeing it for the first time, brilliant. I absolutely loved it. It like started out muted as he was just beginning to understand what colors were and just beginning to see them, and then it would get more and more vibrant the more he knew, and then as you switched perspectives to other characters, you would go back to the black and white. That was so well done. I'm really glad that happened because the very first trailer I saw, I thought it was going to be all in color and I was going to be really upset. The acting was really, really good. Obviously when you have Jeff Bridges as the Giver, like he was phenomenal, like absolutely the best Giver ever. And Meryl Streep was the Chief Elder, which is kind of not a new character, but they had like the minorest role ever. Like they just were a person that exists in the book. They actually gave her a role in the movie and a backstory. I did really like that. Like they didn't say what her backstory was, but they alluded to some things that made her character have some depth. Of course, seeing Meryl Streep and Jeff Bridges work together was just amazing. Seeing her and the Giver argue was a really good way of showing like, this is one of the few dystopians that in the beginning you don't think it's even that bad. You can understand why they wanted this society to happen and you could argue both sides. I thought the boy that played Jonas did it really, really well. You really believed his innocence because there's so much the community does not know. And so when Jonas was first learning about sort of the outside world from the Giver, it is really funny. Like the first time he sees a piano, it's hilarious. He's just like, what an odd table. All the food would just fall to the floor. He just portrayed all of those moments so well, and you could really just see how excited he was about this new knowledge and how painful some of the worst memories were when the Giver was giving it to him. I just thought the overall atmosphere was really good, and I thought the pacing went really well, and there was just so much to love. There were, of course, some key differences, like I said, but I felt like none of them were superfluous, and they all just made the story more cohesive, and so I actually liked all of the changes. I didn't think that they took away from the book story. I think it just made it stand out on its own because there are just certain things that Lois Lowry doesn't explain in the book that you just can't get away with not explaining in the movie. The movie would fall apart. And so I think that the things that they added in or changed or whatever didn't take away from the central theme. You still reach that same conclusion from both stories and you still feel the same things, I think, in both stories. And the majority of it was kept pretty much the same. So I'll go through those differences with you really quickly. The first big change was, of course, the characters' ages. In the book, Jonas is 12 and so are his friends, and in the movie they are 18. Didn't really mind that at all because it sort of made more sense to me that after you're 18 you graduate and move on, because that's sort of what we do now in my society. Another key difference was just that Jonas's friends, Fiona and Asher, actually had a much bigger role in the movie than they did in the book, and they were more of a trio. They weren't all friends, I think, so closely in the book, but they were all best friends growing up in the movie, and I think that added a nice level of consistency throughout the movie, you kept seeing all three of them. They weren't just sort of throwaway characters in the movie. And so I thought that was actually pretty effective, the dynamic between the three of them. And then I think, like I was already talking about, they added in the chief elder, so you got that perspective from the leaders of everything. And so I really liked having that perspective, and I really liked her character. I thought it brought a lot of depth to the story. There was also a bit more romance, which I didn't think I was gonna like. I really thought it was just gonna bug me that they were tossing it in just because it's a Hollywood movie. But it was a short, sweet sideline that you just got little glimpses of as you went along, but it never like overpowered the story or became more important than the main plot line. It just kind of underscored, along with Jonas's love for Gabe and Jonas's love and the Giver's love for each other and the Giver's love for Rosemary, all of those instances of actual love. They all sort of were woven together through the movie to, like I said, underscore what they were missing out on in this community. It was just showing you how amazing love can be in all its forms, and that it's so important that they fix the community so they get that back. And so it didn't end up bothering me at all. Lastly, they filled in some of the book's gaps by giving this society a pretty advanced technology. Lois Lowry doesn't specifically say that they use crazy technology to control everybody. She just never explains at all how they're doing it. You wouldn't be able to get away with that in the movie. You have to explain it, or it just wouldn't make sense, and you wouldn't know how to even build the community. And so I was totally cool with it. Like, I didn't mind the whole injections thing. It wasn't that different from like the pills they were taking in the book. Yeah, that just kind of filled in some of the gaps, and I didn't mind that. There are of course also some smaller changes that just don't really matter, but I did notice. First of all, Jonas was much more eager to try and share what he was learning than he did in the book. He was much better in the book about being secretive about the whole thing. Also, Asher got a different job because, you know, in the book there are no drone pilots or whatever. It was important later in the movie that he was that job. So also, Gabe ended up staying in Lily's room all the time. He never stayed in Jonas's room. It actually just allowed Lily to see or hear a little bit more about what Jonas was telling Gabe. So it was actually kind of made for some really sweet moments when she sort of wake up and hear Jonas talking to Gabe. And then another thing was that you see an actual map of the whole area and this boundary of memory, which is how they keep anybody else but the Giver from having these long back memories. It's made the objective much easier for Jonas later on. There's one other tiny thing as well. The whole way that you know that Jonas and the Giver can see beyond is because they have blue eyes, and in the movie they actually went a step further and gave them a little birthmark on their wrist. Attributing it to the birthmark and not their eyes made it more sense as to why you need to grip each other's arms when receiving memories, and it'd be too hard to have everybody else not have blue eyes. So, but yeah, all of those changes really didn't bug me. I thought that everything that was really important was still there in the story, and the rest of it was very, very true. Still saw all of the really important scenes I wanted to see, and I just ended up really enjoying it. I thought the ending was nice. You actually got to see a little bit of the community, not just Jonas doing his thing after everything's kind of getting fixed. And it's a little bit more clear that Jonas lives at the end, which a lot of people questioned when they read The Giver. And I was so happy. I was so happy with this movie, and just so many things that were so good, and I felt all of the things. Yeah, okay, at this point I'm just rambling, but I liked it is what I'm trying to get at here. It's not like the most stunning movie in the world or anything, but as an adaptation I thought it was really good. I think that's all I have to say. I'm just rambling. So this has been a review. I'm Jackie, and I'll see you in the next one. If you've seen the movie, by the way, tell me what you thought of it below, and yeah, hope you guys have a good day. Bye!